hide the thingy so it doesn't get in the way. All right. So, as discussed before, right, we're going to discuss the first Passover. And this is important because if I open up scripture and I go to the Gospels, I can learn about Yeshua. I can learn a lot about Yeshua. But if we flip into the book of Acts and we start to understand the disciples' role, right, and the apostles, and we start going through the letters of Paul, and we start going through uh, the book of Peter, we go through First John, Second John, Third John, we go through Revelation, we go through Romans, we go through the book of James, we enter into Hebrews, we start to see and understand the men who walked with Yeshua, right? We start to see their point of view and their opinion based on the teachings that Yeshua gave. What we lack in all of the Gospels, what we lack is the two men. It's the first time Yeshua is seen after the crucifixion, after transfiguration, right? The first time he's seen, it's two men on the road to Emmaus, and they're wondering, was that the Messiah? Right? They're talking back and forth, saying, hey, this, that, the other. And they're wondering, is this the Messiah? And Yeshua, right, concealing his face and identity from these two men, walk with them, and he uses the Torah and the prophets. He uses the Old Testament in order to teach these men that this was, in fact, the Mashiach, the Messiah. So, yes, the Gospels, the epistles of Paul, the letters of the other disciples, and the books of the disciples are very important. But they did not understand who Yeshua was because of the Gospels. They understood who Yeshua was because of the Old Testament, because of the scriptures that they had from a young age, right? Paul tells Timothy, continue in the teaching and the understanding and the knowledge of the scriptures that you were raised on. At that time, it wasn't the book of Matthew, it wasn't the book of Luke like a modern day Christian is today. That was based on the scriptures. So when we see and we encounter Yeshua in Passover, we can easily go into Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and we can read about Yeshua during the Passover. We can understand that. But if we are lacking the first mentioned, if we're lacking the first instance that we have of Scripture, then it's more difficult for us to connect the link. So we've covered the last 5 years, we've covered Yeshua during our Passover study, and we've covered timelines. We've got all that. We've done all that stuff. One thing we've never done is gone back to the first Passover. So it's going to be a lot of reading, a lot of breaking out of sections. There's a lot of slides. So enjoy. But it's good. So we are actually going to be picking up in the book of Exodus. Chapter 3 is where we're going to begin. All right, so we all know the story, but context, right? Moses is going to be killed, put into a wicker basket, put into the Nile, found by Pharaoh's daughter. Pharaoh's daughter is calling out, "Oh, look, I found a Hebrew baby in a basket." And it's so sad that they're, you know, my father's killing them, but I'll keep this and raise him as my own. Moses' sister sees this, that he's discovered, goes up and says, "Oh, he's but a young baby. I let a Hebrew woman feed him." She gets her mom, Moses' mother, and Miriam, Moses' mother, take care of Moses until he is weaned. Um, and then he is raised and as one of the sons of Pharaoh. He's taught in the ways. He's out one day. He sees a worker um, beating one of his Hebrew brothers. He's much older at this point, and he strikes the worker and kills him, or the Egyptian slave driver and kills him. And then the next day he sees two Hebrews fighting, and he goes up to them and says, "Brothers, why are you fighting? Right? What's this contention?" And they said, "Oh, you're going to strike us down like you struck down uh, that Egyptian man." And in that moment, Moses realizes that what he had done yesterday was a lot more known. And in fear, he runs to Midian. And when he runs to Midian, he runs into a man named Jethro, and he works Jethro's fields for a very long time. And he ends up marrying Jethro's daughter, Sephora, um, who they are Ethiopian. Um, and fast forward, here we are. So, Exodus 3. All right. Meanwhile, Moses was shepherding the flock of his father in law, Jethro, the priest of Midian. He led the flock to the far side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of Elohim. There, the angel of Yahweh appeared unto him in a blazing fire from within a bush. Moses saw the bush ablaze with fire, but it was not consumed. So Moses thought, I must go over and see this marvelous sight. Why is the bush not burning up? When Yahweh saw that he had gone over to look, Elohim called out to him from within the bush, Moses, Moses. Here I am, he had answered. Do not come any closer, Elohim said. Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is set apart ground. And he said, I am the Elohim of your father, the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Isaac, the Elohim of Jacob. At this, Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at Elohim. So Moses falls on the ground. He's just minding his own business, sees a burning bush, sees the angel of Yahweh inside the fire that is consuming the bush. Once he realizes what is going on, Moses falls upon his face for fear of the sight that he's seeing. And Yahweh says, I have indeed seen the affliction of my people in Mitzrayim. I have heard them crying out because of their oppressors, and I am aware of their sufferings. I have come down to rescue them from the hand of the Mitzrites, and to bring them up out of the land to a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey, a land, the home of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Pezerites, the Hivites, the Jebusites. And now the cry of the Israelites has reached me, and I have seen how severely the Egyptians are oppressing them. Therefore, go, I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people out of Egypt. But Moshe asked Elohim, who am I that I should go unto Pharaoh and to bring the Israelites out of Mitzrayim? Now, if we go into the book of Jasher, which I was going to put in here, but it was way too much and would have no time to cover it. So if you want to, and I think you should, today, this afternoon, this week, getting ready for Passover, Jasher chapter 80. If we go back to about Jasher 75 and we read, but Jasher 80, 81, and 82 is the covering of the actual plagues in the Passover. But if you go back to about 75, you can go back earlier, and what you'll see is that Moses wasn't just a shepherd in Midian. Moses also was the leader of the Cushite army. And when we understand that Moses, right, wasn't just shepherding sheep, but he was actually shepherding people, taking people to war, fighting, having to run a garrison, having to coordinate, feed, take care of, shelter, clothe, assign leaders, pick leaders, designate, delegate for 40 years while he was running around in Midian, right? Well, not 40 full years, but for the time he was running around in Midian. Actually, yeah, it was 40 years. Uh, at some point, Moses becomes a leader, and at some point, he becomes the head of the Cushite army during his time in the land of Midian. Um, so who better, right, than Moses to lead the people, right? Who better than a humble, quiet, docile, timid leader, but also has the ability to do what needs to be done in the moment, right? We're going to talk about that kind of thing later, but I just want you to think about it, right? So here's Moses, this very, very powerful man of stature, right? He was, in essence, a son of Pharaoh the whole time he was in Mitzrayim. Moves to Midian, and at some point during his time becomes the leader of the Cushite army. All right, 12. I will surely be with you, right? So even if Moses is like, who am I? The Father says, I will be with you. And this will be the sign to you that I have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Mitzrayim, all of you will worship Elohim on this mountain. All right, so now we're starting to get an idea, right? Think about this. Where is this conversation happening with the burning bush? In the mountain of Horeb. He says, what? I will bring all of you out, and you will worship on this mountain. 13. Then Moses asks Elohim, suppose I go to the Israelites and I say to them, the Elohim of your fathers has sent you to me. And they ask me, what is his name? What should I tell them? This is, we don't really talk about this much, but think about this, right? Back in the day, right now, if I said, well, President Trump sent me, everybody in the world would have a face, an idea, a name, a man, an ideology, a belief, whatever, attached to that name. Moses has been gone a long time. And he's saying, well, when I go back and I said, the Elohim of your fathers has sent you to me, and they ask, what is his name? There's a couple of things with this. One, this is the first time the Father reveals his name. Two, look how far removed his people have come from him. Right? Apparently, the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob no longer carries any kind of weight. But we're going to go into his name and we're going to get into something later on with a conversation with Pharaoh. And this might lead to a little bit of the true establishment of the name of the Father on the earth. Right? Think about this. They don't have the name yet. He hasn't told the name. But this name is about to be established on a worldwide, everybody knows now the name of the Most High, right? So 14. Elohim says unto Moshe, Eyer Esher Eyer. That's the Hebrew. Eyer Esher Eyer. That is, I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent you. Eyer has sent you. This Eyer is conveniently, if you make a note, the same ayer that Yeshua says when he's being confronted by Caiaphas, and they say, um, are you the Mashiach? Are you truly the son of Elohim? Yeshua says, ayer. This ayer is a little different, right? It doesn't necessarily like, who's hungry? Oh, I am, right? That's not the same style of I am. In that instance, right, it's a more simpler language. It would be like me. Who's hungry? Me, right? And if somebody said, "Who is the person that is in charge here?" You wouldn't say me. You would say ayer, right? It would be with the commanding or a authoritative uh, setting, right? So he says, right, and this is where they get the great I am has sent me to you. 15. And Elohim also tells Moshe, say to the Israelites, Yahweh, the Elohim of your fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Isaac, the Elohim of Yaakov, has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and this is how I am to be remembered in every generation. So for all of those people who say, well, like when the Jews, we don't want to say his name, so they say Hashem, the name. That's literally what they say. Hashem means the name. So he says right here, and he's commanding, this is how I will be remembered in every generation. So that's why it's important that we know who we're talking to and who we are addressing and who we are praying to. Because this name is about to establish itself, right? In every tongue, nation, and generation. 16, go, assemble the elders of Israel and say to them, Yahweh, your Elohim, your fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, has appeared to me and said, I have surely attended to you and have seen what you have done in Mitzrayim, and I have promised to bring you up out of your affliction in Mitzrayim and to the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Pezerites, the Hivites, and Jebusites, a land flowing with milk and honey. So pay attention, because Moses is constantly gonna say and is constantly instructed, tell them it's the father, the Elohim of your father, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This is the establishing connection that Moses is trying to beat into their heads, that Yahweh is the same Elohim, one Elohim. As we did in the Paul study, right, in Galatians, there's one body, one faith, one mind, one Elohim, one religion, one belief. 18, the elders of Israel will listen to what you will say. And you must go with them to the king of Egypt, the Pharaoh of Egypt, and tell them, Yahweh, the Elohim of the Hebrews has met with us. Now, please, let us take a 3-day journey into the wilderness that we may sacrifice to Yahweh our Elohim. But I know that the king of Egypt will not allow you to go unless a mighty hand compels him. So I will stretch forth my hand and I will strike the Egyptians with all wonders I will perform among them. And after that, he will release you. So think about this, okay? Moses is going into this knowing that they will be released. Keep that in your mind. 21, and I will grant this people such favor in the sight of the Egyptians that when you leave, you will not go empty-handed. Every woman will ask her neighbor and any woman staying in her home for silver, gold, jewelry, clothing. You will put them on your sons and daughters, so you will plunder the Egyptians. Right? You're not going to be leaving empty-handed. You'll be leaving as a physically rich nation. Then Moses answered, what if they do not believe me or listen to my voice? For they may say, Yahweh has not appeared to you. And Yahweh asked him, what is that in your hand? A staff, he replied. Now we're going to pause right here. This staff, if we go back into the book of Jasher, we can see that this staff is a staff of sapphire. And this staff has a lineage. And if you care, you'll go back into Jasher and read about the lineage of this staff. So this is not just some piece of wood. This was a staff that was stuck in Jethro's yard that no one was able to pull out. And Moses was the only one able to grab it and pull it out of the ground. I believe this is where the idea of Merlin comes from. I think Moses is the story of Merlin is Moses retold. And I think the staff of Moses and Aaron is the staff of Merlin. And this is just what happens when the telephone game goes through different religions and different tongues. And people, if we go back into Samaritan texts, there's a man named Utnapishtim. That is Noah. But when we look at Utnapishtim, him and Noah have the identical life. The difference is Noah is accrediting all of it to Yahweh, to the Father. Utnapishtim is preserved from the gods. So it's small, minor details that are changed, but they change drastically the context around that person. But Utnapishtim in ancient Samaritan text is Noah. Just how he gets saved, right? It says he's in a big wooden box, not on an ark. He says that the gods favored Noah, Utnapishtim. Well, we know that the Father saw that Noah was the only just man in his generation. So it's similarities, but small details change, and it kind of ends up changing the whole thing. So this staff that Moses has in his hand is not just any staff, and you can find that in Jasher. He says, verse 3, throw it on the ground, says Yahweh. So Moses threw it on the ground, and it became a serpent, a snake, and he ran from it. Stretch forth your hand and grab it by the tail, Yahweh said unto Moshe. And he reaches out his hand and he caught the snake, and it turned back into a staff in his hand. So this is that they may believe that Yahweh, the Elohim of their fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Isaac, the Elohim of Jacob, has appeared unto you. Furthermore, Yahweh said unto Moses, put your hand inside your cloak. Right? He says, or in some translations. So this is the Berean study guide, right? That this is pulled from. This is not from the Septuagint. They are very closely worded. This was just much easier for me to copy 10 chapters out quickly. So this is the Berean study guide. He says, put your hand inside your cloak, or he says, place your hand inside your bosom, which is your lap. It says, so he put his hand inside his bosom and he took it out, and his hand was leprous, white as snow, which was probably shocking. He says, put your hand back inside your cloak, said Yahweh. So Moshe put his hand back inside of his cloak bosom, and he took it out, and it was restored like the rest of his skin. And Yahweh said, if they refuse to believe you or heed the witness of the first sign, they will believe that of the second. But if they do not believe that, even these two signs, or listen to your voice, take some water from the Nile, pour it out on dry ground, then the water you take from the Nile will become blood on the ground. If you see that little picture behind, right, we have the serpent, we have his hand becoming leprous, and we have him pouring out water that once it hits the ground becomes blood. And Moses replies, please, Yahweh, I have never been eloquent, neither in the past nor since you have spoken to your servant, for I am slow of speech and tongue. Now, we go back into Jasher, we see that Moses is very intelligent at a young age, and he actually takes the crown of Pharaoh and he places the crown upon his head. And it's a very bad sign, because the soothsayers and magicians in the court of Pharaoh, they look and say, oh my goodness, this thing is a sign and a decree. This is a wise young man. He is saying he will take the crown of Pharaoh. And Pharaoh's like, well, I don't know about that. And they said, yes, this boy is wise. He knows what he is doing. And they said, well, let us test this boy. So they hold out a hot coal and an emerald. And they say, if the boy is wise, he will reach for the emerald. If the boy is unwise and no threat of you, he will reach for the coal. As he goes to reach out for the emerald, it says the angel of Yahweh directs his hand. He grabs the coal and puts it in his mouth, and it burns his tongue and his cheek. And from that day forward, Moses has a difficult time speaking. He spits the coal out, and they say, "Oh, I guess he's just a dumb baby." And this is why they allow Moses to live. And this is why they allow Moses to come up as a son of Pharaoh, because from a young age, his soothsayers and magicians have established that he is no threat to Pharaoh. This is why he is slow of speech and tongue. Verse 11. And Yahweh says, "Who gave man his mouth? Or who makes the mute or the deaf, the sighted of the blind? It is not I, Yahweh. Now go, I will help you as you speak, and I will teach you what to say." This reminds me of Job, right? Job basically questions the Most High, and the Most High tells him, right? He says, "Gird your loins." And then he asks him a whole bunch of questions. This same instance happens in the book of Second Esdras. Ezra's standing there. He sees a woman in the field, and the woman's crying out and wailing. And he says, "This woman is Jerusalem," and she becomes a city. A bunch of stuff happens. But Esdras says, "Father, you're telling me I'm supposed to go and rebuild the city, but all the scriptures have been burned. The temple's been destroyed. There is nothing left. How am I supposed to do these things?" And the father asks Esdras 3 questions. And he says, can you weigh the weight of wind? Can you measure me the weight of fire? And can you call back a day that has passed? Right? And in all these, Ezra's like, absolutely not. Who could do these things? And the angel tells him, well, you're questioning the Father, but for the Father, these things are simple. These are not even complex. These things could be done without even a thought. Yet you're saying, who could do these things? So why are you questioning the Most High? And this is the same kind of thing that happens with Job, right? Job gets humbled, and here again we see Moses like, oh, I can't even talk, and he's like, dude, I can do all of these things. Just go, right? Just obey. Just do what I'm telling you to do. But resistance, right? And here we see Moses in 13. He replies and says, "Please, Yahweh, send someone else." Now, my question is, was it really because he was slow of speech, or was it because Moses was fearful and afraid or ashamed or nervous about what he had done? Remember, he fled Egypt because he murdered somebody. So I always wonder, what was Moses really worried about? 14. Then the anger of Yahweh burned against Moses, and he said, and this makes me wonder, is the anger burning against Moses because the Father knows the reason Moses doesn't want to go back is because he just fears for maybe to go to prison or jail or be killed? Is that why the Most High is mad at him? Go read Jonah, right? It doesn't say that anger of Yahweh burns against Jonah. He just says, okay, cool. And he rocks the seas, and they throw him off, and he gets he gets angry with Jonah later. But look at how quickly the anger of the Father has been riled up in Moses, because of Moses. But also, too, think about it. Moses was just leading an army into war. He didn't have no problem speaking commands like that, did he? But now here he says, go with you, I'll be with you. And Moses is refusing. And he said, is not Aaron the Levite your brother? I know that he can speak well, and he is now on his way to meet you. When he sees you, he will be glad in his heart. You are to speak to him, to put the words in his mouth. I will help both of you to speak, and I will teach you what to do. Remember, They do not know how to build the tabernacle. They don't know how to do these things. The Father says, I will place in the mind of these men that I choose the knowledge on how to accomplish the tasks in which I ask them to accomplish. So if you feel like the Father's guiding you to do something, the fear of being like, oh no, I won't be able to do it. It's like, okay, well, if it's from the Father, then He's going to teach you how to do it in the moment. And you shouldn't be worried, will I be able to, will I not be able to? You should just go do it because He's going to teach you. 16. He will speak to the people for you. He will be your spokesman, and it will be as if you were a Elohim to him. This is very, very important. The idea and the showmanship, if you will, the presentation is that Moses is being almost revered to the Egyptians as a god. This is very important later, and we'll discuss it. 17, but take this staff in your hand so that you can perform the signs with it. Then Moses went back to his father-in-law Jethro and said unto him, please, let me return to my brothers in Mitzrayim to see if they are still alive. Go in peace, Jethro replied. Now Yahweh had said unto Moses in Midian, go back to Egypt, for all the men who sought to kill you are dead. So Moses took his wife and his sons, and he put them on a donkey, and he headed back to Egypt, and he took his staff of Elohim in his hand. And he took the staff of Elohim in his hand. Moses is now comforted. Hey, don't worry, all those people who wanted to kill you are dead. I think this is why the father's anger burned, because he knew he was fearful of those men. So he reminds Moses, and then he takes the staff of what? Of Moses. He takes the staff of Aaron. No, he takes the staff of Elohim. Remember, it wasn't just a stick that was in his hand. Right? 21, Yahweh instructed Moses, when you go back to Mitzrayim, see that you'll perform before Pharaoh all the wonders that I've put within your power. But I will harden his heart so that he will not let the people go. Then tell Pharaoh that this is what Yahweh says. Israel is my firstborn son. Highlight 22 and 23. Israel is my firstborn son. And I told you to let my son go so that he may worship me. But since you have refused to let him go, behold, I will kill your firstborn son. This is very, very important. In the Exodus, all of the firstborns in the land of Mitzrayim were removed from Egypt physically or soul from body. Every firstborn in the land of Egypt was removed in that night, whether through life or death, they were removed. This is really important because he says, Israel is my firstborn son. This will play way later into prophecies. This will play way later because we go into the book of Isaiah, we go into the book of Ezekiel, we go into Jeremiah, and these prophecies about Israel talk about Israel almost as if they are his son. But some of these prophecies that speak of Israel are speaking of Yeshua, who is his firstborn son. All right, 24. Now, at a lodging place along the way, Yahweh met Moses and was about to kill him. But Zipporah took a flint knife and cut off her son's foreskin and touched it to Moses' feet. Surely you are a bridegroom of blood unto me, she said. So Yahweh let him alone. Now, why Moses did not circumcise his son, I cannot tell you. Maybe it had to do with Zipporah. And maybe this was a show to Zipporah, the true power of the Most High. Because Zipporah sees that Yahweh, is about to strike down Moses, and she protects him by circumcising their son, right? And she lays the foreskin at the feet of Moses and says, "Surely you are a bridegroom of blood to me." And Yahweh leaves Moses alone. Remember, we talked about this. We talked about this, and we read about this in Genesis 13, in Genesis 15, in Genesis 17. We read about the covenant. We read about the blood. That covenant means to cut into, right? Separating, right? Severing, spilling of blood while severing or cleaving, sawing asunder. And this is exactly what happens with Zephora. I'm assuming at this moment understands the true authority, right? She reveres the Most High as who he is. 27. Meanwhile, Yahweh said unto Aaron, "Go and meet the people in the wilderness." So he went and met Moses at the mount of Elohim and kissed him. And Moses told Aaron everything Yahweh has sent him to say, all the signs he has commanded him to perform. So now Moses is not the only one who knows. From the very beginning, maybe Moses is hesitant because he is now going to tell Pharaoh, who is technically like his brother, that if you don't let us go, the father is going to take your son, which could technically be Pharaoh's nephew or Moses' nephew. And he knows Pharaoh will not let him go, and he knows he will take his son. This could have also been another reason why Moses was hesitant. But now he meets up with Aaron, and he tells Aaron everything and all that's going to be done. So Aaron now knows the only way they leave here is when all the firstborn in the land of Mitzrayim are killed. That's a heavy, heavy thing. This is a heavy thing to know. Right? It's like you're sitting here, you're looking at a food supply, you know there's only enough food supply for one person, and you know you do not have enough for two people, and you realize that that other person's going to die. And there's nothing you can do about it. You're just putting off the inevitable. Right? That's got to be a heavy burden for Moses and Aaron both to have to carry on with. 29. Then Moses and Aaron went to the assembly and the elders of the Israelites. And Aaron relayed everything that Yahweh had said unto Moshe. And Moshe performed the signs before the people, and they believed. And when they heard that Yahweh had attended to the Israelites and had seen their affliction, they bowed down and worshipped. Thank you. He says, they will see and believe, and the signs you will know is when they come and they bow down and worship me in this mountain. Now the elders know the only way they leave Egypt is death. All right. Now we're moving in to the Pharaoh. All right, this is Pharaoh's first refusal. Then after this, Moshe and Aaron went into Pharaoh and said, "This is what Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel, says. Let my people go, so that they may hold a feast to me in the wilderness." Remember, no one's known the name. 2, but Pharaoh replies, "Who is Yahweh that I should obey his voice and let Israel go? I do not know Yahweh, and I will not let Israel go." Now, if we go into the book of Jasher, we see that Pharaoh says, "Who is this Yahweh? Bring unto me the book of the gods." And they look through the names in the book of the gods, and they say, "Well, we see no Yahweh in this book. We do not know this Yahweh. He has no power. We've written down all these gods, and we don't see his name in here. So obviously he's a nobody. We don't know who you're talking about. Don't worry about it." And Pharaoh looks at Moses and Aaron and says, "We don't know who this is. We're not letting you go. Get out of here. Right? And you're about to get ready to highlight some stuff, right? So Moses tells him, and Pharaoh says, we don't know this. We don't know this Elohim. 3, the Elohim of the Hebrews has met with us, they answered. Please let us go on a 3-day journey into the wilderness to sacrifice to Yahweh our Elohim. Or he may strike us with plagues or with the sword. But Pharaoh says unto them, Moses and Aaron, why do you draw these people away from their work? Get back to your labor. Pharaoh also said, look, the people of the land are now numerous, and you would be stopping them from their labor. Now, think about this. If we go back into the book of Jasher, we see that the Levites are the only ones who do not bond into slavery of the Egyptians. The Levites live outside the city. All the other tribes eventually find their way into slavery through the hand of the Egyptians. But the Levites are not. The Levites have remained unbonded. So, this is why Moses and Aaron are not working the fields, because they didn't bond themselves, they didn't sell themselves. Right? 6, that same day Pharaoh commanded the taskmasters of the people and their foremen, you will no longer supply the people with straw for making bricks. They must go and gather their own straw. But require them the same quota of bricks as they did before, and do not reduce it. For they are lazy, and that is why they are crying out, let us go sacrifice to our Elohim. Highlight 9 if you don't. He says, make the work harder on the men so they will become occupied and pay no attention to these vain words. So Pharaoh's like, these guys are idle. They got too much time on their hands. Make their work more laborious and more difficult so they don't even have time to think about the Father. They don't even have time to want to go sacrifice. They're not worried about it. Well, remember, right before this, Moses and Aaron tell them the Father's going to bring us out, and they're like, awesome, we're about to be saved. And now their daily tasks just became tremendously more difficult. 10. So the taskmasters and the foremen of the people went out and said unto them, this is what Pharaoh says, I am no longer giving you straw. Go and get your own straw wherever you can find it, but your workload will no way be reduced. So the people scattered all over the land of Mitzrayim to gather stubble for straw. The taskmasters kept pressing them, saying, fulfill your quota each day, just as you did when your straw was provided. Then the Israelite foremen, whom Pharaoh's taskmasters had set over the people, were beaten and asked, why have you not fulfilled your quota of bricks yesterday or today as you did before? So the Israelite foreman went and appeared unto Pharaoh. Why are you treating your servant this way? No straw has been given to your servants, yet we are told, make bricks. Look, your servants are being beaten, but the fault is with your own people. You are slackers, Pharaoh replied. Slackers, that is what you keep saying. Let us go and sacrifice unto Yahweh. Now get to work. You'll be given no straw, yet you must deliver the quota of bricks. The Israelite foremen realized that they were in trouble when they were told, you must not reduce your daily quota of bricks. When they left Pharaoh, they confronted Moses and Aaron, who stood waiting to meet them. Think about this. Moses and Aaron are standing there, and these Israelite foremen come out, and they just get told, tough luck, dude, do your job, right? This is what they say to Moses and Aaron. 21 says, may Yahweh, oh, now they're using the name, right? They didn't know the name before. Now they're using the name. They said, may Yahweh look upon you and judge you. The foreman said, for you have made us a stench before Pharaoh and his officials. You have placed in their hand a sword to kill us. So Moses returns unto Yahweh and asks, Yahweh, why have you brought trouble upon this people? Is this why you sent me? Ever since I went to Pharaoh to speak in your name, he has brought trouble on this people, and you have not delivered the people in any way. But Yahweh said unto Moses, Now you will see what I will do to Pharaoh. For because of my mighty hand, he will let the people go. Because of my strong hand, he will drive them out of this land. Elohim also told Moses, I am Yahweh. I appeared to Abraham, to Isaac, to Jacob, as El Shaddai, the Elohim Almighty, right? The God Almighty. But my name is Yahweh, and I did not make myself known unto them. I established my covenant with them to give them the land of Canaan, the land where they are lived as foreigners. Furthermore, I have heard the groaning of the Israelites, whom the Egyptians are enslaving, and I have remembered my covenant. Therefore tell the Israelites, I am Yahweh, and I will bring you up out from under the yoke of the Egyptians, and I will deliver you from their bondage. I will redeem you from an outstretched arm and with mighty acts of judgment. I will take you as my own people, and I will be your Elohim. Then you will know that I am Yahweh your Elohim, who has brought you out from under the yoke of the Mitzrites. And I will bring you into the land that I swore to give to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I will give it to you as a possession. I am Yahweh. So think about this. Here he's promising that these individuals coming out of the Exodus, coming out of Egypt, will be given the promised land. Who messed that up? Moses relayed this message to the Israelites, but on account of their broken spirit and cruel bondage, they did not listen to him. So Yahweh says to Moses, Go unto Pharaoh, king of Mitzrayim, and let the Israelites go out of his hand. But in Yahweh's presence, Moses replies, But in Yahweh's presence. Interesting. No man has seen the face of my father and lived. But in Yahweh's presence, Moses replies, If the Israelites will not listen to me, then why would Pharaoh listen to me, since I am unskilled in speech? Here we go again. I will put what needs to be done, what needs to be said in your mouth and in your hand. Just go. But here's Moses. I am unskilled in speech. Then Yahweh spoke to Moses and Aaron and gave them a charge concerning both the Israelites and the Pharaoh, king of Mitzrayim, to bring the Israelites up out of the land of Mitzrayim. All right. These were the heads of the fathers in the houses, the sons of Reuben, the firstborn of Israel. Chenok, Palu, Hezron, Camri. These were the clans of Reuben. The sons of Simeon, Jemael, Jamin, Ohad, Jachin, Zorah, Shaul, the son of the Canaanite woman. These were the clans of Simeon. These were the names of the sons of Levi according to their records. Gershon, Kohath, Merari. Levi lives 137 years. The sons of Gershon were Libyan, Simeon by their clans. The sons of Kohath were Amram, Izhar, Hebron, Uziel. Kohath lived 133 years. The sons of Merari, you can highlight that because the sons of Merari come up way later, and we'll see that when you go through Jasher. You see the sons of Merari a lot. Mahal and Mushi. These were the clans of the Levites according to their records. And Amram married his father's sister, Jochebed, and she bore Aaron and Moses. Jochebed, the mother of Moses. Amram lived 137 years. The sons of Izhar were Korah, Nepheg, Zitri, and the sons of Uziel were Mishael, Eliphan, and Shitri. And Aaron married Elisheba, the daughter of Abinadab and the sister of Nashron, and she bore him Nabad, Abu, Eleazar, and Ithmar. The sons of Korah were Ashir, Elachar, Abisaith, and they were the clans of the Korites. Aaron's son Eleazar married one of the daughters of Puthael, and she bore him Phinehas, Those are two important names. You highlight those. Actually, all three of those are. These were the heads of the Levite clans, their families. And it was this, Aaron and Moses, to whom Yahweh had said, bring the Israelites out of the land of Mitzrayim by their divisions. Moses and Aaron were ones who spoke to the Pharaoh, king of Mitzrayim, in order to bring the Israelites out of Mitzrayim. Now on that day, Yahweh spoke to Moses in Mitzrayim, and he said, I am Yahweh. Tell Pharaoh, king of Mitzrayim, everything I say to you. But in Yahweh's presence, Moses replied, since I am unskilled in speech, why would Pharaoh listen to me? Then Elohim commanded Moses, see, I have made you like Elohim to Pharaoh, and your brother Aaron will be your prophet. You are to speak all that I command you, and that your brother Aaron is to tell Pharaoh to let the Israelites go out of this land. So, now, another little boost of confidence, right? He says, I have made you like a god in the eyes of Pharaoh. Because the question I always have is like, well, why didn't Pharaoh just kill Moses, right? He could have just had his guards kill Moses and Aaron right there on the spot and end the uprising. Well, if Pharaoh thinks that Moses is a god, and the way that the Egyptians revered gods and bowed down to gods, he would know, I can't kill him. And now all of the Egyptians, seeing Pharaoh recognize Moses as a god, they would see that he has an authority over them, and they would be fearful to try to kill him. So it's like the ultimate protection in the land of Egypt for Moses to be revered as a god and Aaron to be revered as his prophet. Verse 3. But I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and though I will multiply my signs and wonders in the land of Mitzrayim, Pharaoh will not listen to you. So here you go. Moses is like, if they didn't listen, why would he listen? And here you go. The father's like, he's not going to listen. So stop worrying about this nonsense and just go and do what I tell you to do. And then I will lay my hand on Egypt, and by mighty acts of judgment, I will bring the divisions of my people and the Israelites out of the land of Egypt. And the Egyptians will know that I am Yahweh when I stretch forth my hand against the Mitzrites and bring the Israelites out from among them. So Moses and Aaron did just as Yahweh had commanded them. Moses was 80 years old, and Aaron was 83 when they spoke unto Pharaoh. All right, now we're about to see the name of Yahweh be brought and presented and established, and the authority of his name in the court of Pharaoh. And Yahweh says to Moses and Aaron, when Pharaoh tells you, perform a miracle, you are to say unto Aaron, take your staff and throw it on before Pharaoh, and it will become a serpent. Think about this, think about this, think about this. When Pharaoh says perform a miracle, Moses is commanded to look to his brother and say, throw your staff up on the ground, and it will become a serpent. So in the courtroom, Aaron is standing there. Moses looks at Aaron and says, throw your staff upon the ground, and it will become a serpent. This is how he is establishing Moses as a Elohim in the eyes of all of these men. This is one of the reasons why Michael contends with Hasatan over the body of Moses. Because from this moment forward, the people are being established that Moses is a god. That means that the body of Moses reincarnated, reanimated through necromancy, through the hand of Hasatan, could be very detrimental to everything. But what does Michael do? he says, in the name of Yahweh, right? The name of Yahweh rebuke you. Oh, so even Michael's using the name, right? Think about that. So, 10. Moses and Aaron went into Pharaoh and did just as Yahweh commanded. Aaron threw his staff before Pharaoh and his officials, and it became a serpent. But Pharaoh called the wise men and sorcerers and magicians of Egypt, and they did also the same by their magic arts. Each one threw down his staff, and it became a serpent. But Aaron's staff swallowed up the other staffs. Still, Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he would not listen to them, just as Yahweh had said. Then Yahweh says to Moses, Pharaoh's heart is unyielding. He refuses to let my people go. Go unto Pharaoh in the morning, as you see him walking out in the water. Wait on the bank of the Nile to meet him, and take in your hand the staff that was changed into a snake. And then say to him, the Yahweh of Elohim of the Hebrews has sent me to tell you, let my people go, so that they may worship me in the wilderness. But until now you have not listened. This is what Yahweh has says. This is what Yahweh says. By this you will know that I am Yahweh. Behold, with the staff in my hand, I will strike the water of the Nile, and it will turn into blood. The fish and the Nile will die, the river will stink, and the Egyptians will be unable to drink its water. And Yahweh said unto Moses, tell Aaron, take your staff and stretch your hand over the waters of Mitzrayim, over the rivers and the canals and the ponds and the reservoirs, that they may become blood. And there will be blood throughout the land of Egypt, even in the vessels of wood and stone. So here again, we see Moses on the bank. He commands his brother, place your staff up in the water. Pharaoh sees Moses command Aaron. He sees Aaron put the staff in there. And immediately, the Nile and every vessel of water, all of the wells, we go into Jasher, it says every source of water except in the land of Goshen, where the Israelites are staying. They're the only ones with water. Everywhere else, even in the vessels stored inside their homes, they are full of blood. Moses and Aaron did just what Yahweh had commanded in the presence of Pharaoh and the officials. Aaron raises his staff and struck the water of the Nile, and the water was turned to blood. The fish in the Nile died. The river smelled so bad the Egyptians could not drink its water. And there was blood throughout all the land of Mitzrayim. But the magicians of Egypt did the same thing by their magic arts. So Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he would not listen unto Moses and Aaron, just as Yahweh has said. Instead, Pharaoh turned around, went to his palaces, and he did not take any of this to heart. Didn't even care about it, just shrugged it right off. So all the Egyptians dug around the Nile for water to drink because they could not drink the water from the river. So, timeline wise, right? They go ask him to be released. They don't. They make it much harder. Sometime later, they go before Pharaoh, and the serpent and the staff becomes a serpent. The next day, we see the blood. 7 days fully passed after Yahweh had struck the Nile. So now we could be roughly, let's just say we're in the first month of Moses and Aaron asking for the first time, let my people go, right? So we're in that first month. Then Yahweh says, go unto Pharaoh and tell him, this is what Yahweh says. Let my people go so that they may worship me. But if you refuse to let them go, I will plague your whole country with frogs. The Nile will teem with frogs, and they will come out of your palace and up to your bedroom and up to your bed and into the houses of your officials and your people, and into your ovens and your kneading bowls. The frogs will come upon you, and your people will, and all of your officials. And Yahweh said to Moshe, go, tell Aaron, stretch forth your hand with your staff over the rivers of the canals and the ponds, and cause the frogs to come upon them out of the land of Mitzrayim. So Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up and covered the land of Egypt. But the magicians did the same thing with their magic arts, and they also brought frogs into the land of Egypt. Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and said, this is the first time, highlight this because it's the first time we see this. Pray to Yahweh to take the frogs away from me and my people. Then I will let your people go, and that they may sacrifice unto Yahweh. So here we see the first time of Pharaoh requesting that Moses prays into the Most High for him. So at this moment, we can see that Pharaoh is recognizing the power and authority of the Most High. 9, Moses says to Pharaoh, you may have the honor over me. When will I pray for you and your officials and your people that the frogs, except for those in the Nile, may be taken away from you in your houses? Tomorrow, tomorrow pray for me, Pharaoh answered. May it be as you say, Moses replied, so that you may know that there is no one like Yahweh Elohim. The frogs will depart from you and your houses and your officials and your people, and they will remain only in the Nile. So he says, okay, you want me to pray for you? What day would you like them to leave? Tomorrow. Okay, it'll be tomorrow. And then you'll know that there's no one like him. Right? He even gave Pharaoh the option. Tell me when you want these frogs gone, and that's the day they'll be gone. 12. After Moses and Aaron left Pharaoh, Moses cries out unto Yahweh to help with the frogs that he had brought up against Pharaoh. And Yahweh did as Moses requested, and the frogs in the houses and the courtyards and the fields died. They were piled into countless heaps, and there was a terrible stench in the land. When Pharaoh saw that there was relief, however, he hardened his heart. He hardened his heart. Highlight that, underline it. He hardened his heart and would not listen to Moses and Aaron, just like Yahweh said. Then Yahweh said to Moses, tell Aaron, stretch out your hand, out your staff, and strike the dust of the earth, that it may turn into swarms of gnats throughout the land of Mitzrayim. This they did. And when Aaron stretched out his hand from his staff with his staff, and he struck the dust on the ground, on the earth, gnats came upon them and the beasts, and all the dust of the earth turned into gnats throughout the land of Mitzrayim. The magicians tried to produce their magic arts, but they could not, and the gnats remained on man and beast. Highlight 18. This is the first time when they're not able to recreate. Remember, Moses says, don't worry, the frogs will be dead tomorrow, and you will know that there is none like him. And here it is, the next plague, the magicians cannot recreate it. Now, how far is the frogs from the gnats? I don't know. Probably a little bit of time. A couple of weeks, 3 weeks, a month, maybe. I don't know. If we think about it, if I were to torture you for 10 minutes, you'd be fine. If I were to torture you for a day, you could make it through. If I were to torture you for a week or so, that would break a lot of people, but a lot of people it would not break. If I were to torture you for the next 7 to 8 months, you will break. Everybody will. This is to break the hold that the gods of Egypt have over the land. Not just Egypt, but ever. Remember, this is to establish the Father's name. So he's not coming in like, oh, hey guys, and like, wow, did you see that? He did all this. It's like he destroyed one of the most powerful nations to ever exist. Right? 19. This is the finger, the hand of Elohim, the magicians said unto Pharaoh. So now his own court is saying, nope, 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 nope. This cannot be done by man. This can only be done by a God. But Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he would not listen to them, just as Yahweh had said. To think of how bad it had to have been with all these plagues. Then, then Yahweh said unto Moses, get up early in the morning. And when Pharaoh goes out to the water, stand before him and tell him, this is what Yahweh says, let my people go so that they may worship me. But if you will not let my people go, I will send swarms of flies upon you and your officials and your people and your houses, the houses of the Egyptians, and even the ground where they stand will be full of flies. But on that day I will give special treatment to the land of Goshen, where my people live. No swarms of flies will be found there. In this way you will know that I am Yahweh, and I am in the land. I will make a distinction between my people and your people. This sign will take place tomorrow. And Yahweh did so. Thick swarms of flies poured into Pharaoh's palace and into the houses of his officials through Egypt. The land was ruined by swarms of flies. Then Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and said, go sacrifice to your Elohim within this land. But Moses replied, it would not be right to do that, because the sacrifice we offer to Yahweh our Elohim would be detestable to the Egyptians. If we offer sacrifices are detestable before the Egyptians, would they not stone us? We must make the 3-day journey into the wilderness and sacrifice to Yahweh our Elohim as he commanded us. Now, what did the children of Israel make when they came out of the land of Mitzrayim? Were sitting at the base of Sinai while Moses is on the mountain, and they said, oh, he is dead probably. Let us make a statue to worship Yahweh our Elohim, so that we too will not be consumed by this great fire. And what do they make? A golden calf. Why a calf? Because this is one of the main symbols of one of the main Egyptian gods. So if the Egyptians were to see the Israelites sacrificing a cow, they would be detestable in the eyes of them and they would kill them. They're already staying in the land of Goshen because they are shepherds, and the Egyptians despise shepherds, which is why when Joseph comes in, they give him the land of Goshen so that when they're shepherding and they're killing animals and eating them, cows, sheep, whatever, the Egyptians do not get upset and want to stone them. So he says, we got to go into the land, out of here, because we can't. 28, Pharaoh answered, I will let you go and sacrifice to Yahweh your Elohim in the wilderness, but you must not go very far. Now pray for me. There again, recognizing the authority and the power of the Most High. He's asking them to pray for him. 29, as soon as I leave, said Moses, I will pray unto Yahweh, so that tomorrow the swarm of flies will depart from Pharaoh and his officials and his people. But Pharaoh must not act deceitfully again by refusing to let the people go and sacrifice unto Yahweh. And then Moses left Pharaoh and prayed to Yahweh, and Yahweh did as Moses requested. He removed the swarms of flies from Pharaoh and his officials and his people. Not one fly remained, but Pharaoh hardened his heart. But Pharaoh hardened his heart. I like that. This time as well. And he would not let the people go. All right, on to the fifth plague. Then Yahweh said to Moses, go to Pharaoh and tell him that this is what Yahweh, the Elohim of the Hebrews, says. Let my people go so that they may worship me. But if you continue to restrain them and refuse to let them go, then the hand of Yahweh will bring a severe plague on your livestock in the field, your horses, donkeys, camels, herds, and flocks. But Yahweh will make a distinction between the livestock of Israel and the livestock of Egypt, so that no animal belonging to the Israelites will die. Yahweh set a time, saying, tomorrow. Yahweh will do this in the land. And the next day, Yahweh did just that, and that the livestock of the Egyptians died. But not one animal belonging to the Israelites died. Pharaoh sent officials and found that none of the livestock of the Israelites has died. But Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he would not let the people go. All right, the sixth. Then Yahweh said to Moses, take handfuls of soot from the furnace in the sight of Pharaoh. Now, just pause. This has been a significant amount of time. Exactly, I don't know. But there has been, I would argue, a couple of months that this has been going on from when they first asked to go to now. I would argue this is a couple of months, maybe in the second into the third month, even. So this has been going on for a time. So Moses grabs the handful of soot from the furnace and tosses it into the air. It will become fine dust over the land of Mitzrayim, and festering boils will break out on man and beast throughout the land. So they took the soot from the furnace and stood before Pharaoh. Moses tossed it into the air. The festering boils broke out on man and beasts. The magicians could not stand before Moses because the boils had broken out on them and all the Egyptians. But, here we go. Highlight this in a different color. But the Father hardens Pharaoh's heart. Yahweh hardens Pharaoh's heart. He would not listen to them, just as Yahweh had said unto Moses. I wonder if this moment was the breaking point for Pharaoh and to where he would have ultimately just let them go. It's just assumption. The seventh. And then Yahweh said to Moses, get up early in the morning and stand before Pharaoh and tell him that this is what Yahweh, the Elohim of Hebrews, says. Let my people go so that they may worship me. Otherwise, I will send all my plagues against you and your officials and your people, so that you will know there is no one like me in all the earth. For by this time I could have stretched out my hand and struck you and your people with plague to wipe you off the earth. But I have raised you up for this very purpose, that I will display my power to you, and that my name will be proclaimed in all the earth. Still, if you lord over my people and do not allow them to go, behold, at this time tomorrow, I will rain down the worst hail that has ever fallen on Mitzrayim, from the day it was founded until now. So give orders now to shelter your livestock and everything you have in the field. Every man or beast that remains in the field and is not brought inside will die when the hail comes upon them. Those among Pharaoh's officials who feared the word of Yahweh hurried to bring their servants and livestock to shelter. But those who disregarded the words of Yahweh left their servants and the livestock in the field. And then Yahweh said to Moshe, stretch out your hand toward the heaven, so that the hail may fall on the land of Mitzrayim, on man and beasts, and every plant on the field throughout the land of Mitzrayim. So that Moses stretched forth his staff. So, if you've noticed something, what were these beginning in the first? Aaron is being told by Moses, throw your staff down, put your staff in the water, do this, do that. Then we see a shift. We see Moses grab soot. He throws it into the air and boils. Now we see Moses stretching out his hand with the staff in his hand. And Yahweh sends thunder and hail and lightning struck the earth. So Yahweh rained down hail upon the land of Mitzrayim. And the hail fell and the lightning continued flashing through it. The hail was so severe that nothing like it had ever been seen in all the land of Mitzrayim from the time it became a nation. Throughout the land of Mitzrayim, the hail struck down everything in the field both man and beasts. It beat down every plant of the field and stripped every tree. The only place where it did not hail was in the land of Goshen, where the Israelites lived. Then Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron. This time I have sinned. Ooh, highlight this because now we're seeing a big change of heart. This time I have sinned. That sounds like repentance. He said, Yahweh is righteous, and I and my people are wicked. Pray to Yahweh, for there has been enough of Elohim's thunder and hail. I will let you go. You do not need to stay any longer. And Moses says to him, When I have left this city, I will spread out my hands to Yahweh, the thunder will cease, and there will be no more hail, so that you may know that the earth is Yahweh's. But as for this, you and your officials, I know that you still do not fear Yahweh or Elohim. Imagine this: hail and thunder and lightning. Moses is walking, and I have to believe that the hail is not falling upon him, right? This hail that's killing everything and anything that's outside. And here's Moses walking up from the land of Goshen, not being hailed upon. What kind of impression do you think that would make? And he says right before he leaves, I will pray to the Father, but I know that you do not fear him. Now the flax and the barley were destroyed, since the barley was ripe and the flax was in bloom. But the wheat and the spelt were not destroyed, because they are late crops. And then Moses departed from Pharaoh, went out to the city, and spread his hands unto Yahweh, and the thunder and hail ceased, and the rain no longer poured down on the land. And when Pharaoh saw that the rain and the hail and the thunder had ceased, he sinned again and hardened his heart. Ooh, so now it's going back to Pharaoh hardening his heart. And he said to his officials, So Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he would not let the Israelites go, just as Yahweh had said through Moses. So the hail has destroyed most of the crops, the eighth plague. And then Yahweh said to Moses, Go unto Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the heart of the officials, that I may perform these miraculous signs of mine among them, and that you may tell your children and grandchildren how severely I dealt with the Egyptians when I performed miraculous signs among them, so that all of you may know I am Yahweh. If we are not reading the Old Testament, if we are not reading the actions of the Father in the Old Testament, how in the world can we ever teach our children? How can we ever teach the next generation? How can we ever have a full understanding of who the Father is, which ultimately tells us who the Son is? Because Yeshua said, If you've seen me, you've seen the Father. Well, now knowing the Father, it gives us an understanding of the character of Yeshua. Now knowing the character of Yeshua and the Father, we know their voice. And when they enter in us, like he promises us in John 10, we now know what their expectation is. And we now know them, and they know us. And them knowing us is the important thing. Knowing is great, being known is better. If I walk into a room and I go, I know everybody here, and the guard says, Okay, well, who can vouch for you? That guy. I don't know him. Well, that girl. I don't know that guy. What about those people? I don't know that person. What do you mean? I know you. I've known you. I don't know you. So then we're not allowed in. Why? Because we're not known. Doesn't matter that we know everybody. We're not allowed to get past the guard at the door because we are not known. 3. So Moses and Aaron went into Pharaoh and told him, This is what Yahweh, the Elohim of the Hebrews, say. How long will you refuse to humble yourself before me? Let my people go so that they may worship me. But if you refuse to let my people go, I'll bring locusts into your territory tomorrow. They will cover the face of the land so that no one can see it. They will devour whatever is left after the hail and eat every tree that grows in your field. They will fill your houses and the houses of your officials with and every Egyptian, something neither your fathers nor your grandfathers had seen since the day and since they came into this land. Then Moses turned and left Pharaoh's presence. So at this point, Moses isn't even waiting around for Pharaoh to say yes or no. He tells him, "All right, this is what's going to happen." Turns and leaves. Pharaoh's officials ask him, "How long will this man be a snare to us? Let the people go so that they may worship Yahweh their Elohim. Do you not yet realize that Egypt lies in ruins?" So Moses and Aaron were brought back to Pharaoh. "Go and worship Yahweh your Elohim," he said. "But who exactly will be going?" "We will go with our young, our old," Moses replied. "We will go with our sons, our daughters, with our flocks, our herds, for we must hold a feast to Yahweh." Then Pharaoh said, "May Yahweh be with you. If I ever let you go with your little ones, clearly you are bent upon evil. No, only the men may go and worship Yahweh, since that is what you've been requesting." And Moses and Aaron were driven from Pharaoh's presence. And then Yahweh said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the land of Egypt, so that the locusts may swarm over it and devour every plant in the land, everything that the hail has left behind." So Moses stretched out his staff over the land of Mitzrayim, and throughout that day and night, Yahweh sent an east wind. Highlight that, an east wind across the land. By morning, the east wind had brought the locusts, and the locusts swarmed across the land and settled over the entire territory of Egypt. Never before had they seen so many locusts, and never again will there be. They covered the face of the earth, of all the land, until it was black, and they consumed the plants in the ground and all the fruit of the trees and all that the hail had left behind. Nothing green was left on any tree or plant in all of Mitzrayim. Pharaoh quickly summoned Moses and Aaron and said, "I have sinned against Yahweh your Elohim." Highlight that, repentance. "Now please forgive my sin once more and appeal to Yahweh your Elohim that he may remove this death from me." So Moses left Pharaoh's presence and appealed unto Yahweh. And Yahweh changed the wind to a very strong west wind that carried off the locusts and blew them to the Red Sea. Not a single locust remained in Mitzrayim. But Yahweh hardens Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let the Israelites go. And make a little note, say to go to the book of Enoch and look at east winds and west winds. He talks about these east winds and west winds. All right, 1 second. 26. Okay. Back. Sorry about
Yeah.
that. All right. We are back. All right. The ninth plague, darkness. Yahweh said unto Moses, stretch out your hand toward heaven, so that the darkness may spread over the land of Mitzrayim, a palpable darkness. Think of that. A palpable darkness. You can taste the darkness. So that Moses stretched out his hand toward heaven, and a total darkness covered the land of Egypt for 3 days. No one could see anyone else. For 3 days, no one left his place, yet the Israelites had light in their dwellings. So in the book of Jasher, it says that it was so dark that people that were out and about, they just stopped and laid down and laid there 3 days because they couldn't see anything, right? They were just, it was so dark, it was so engulfing and enveloping that the people that were just outside just laid down for 3 days. There's nothing they could do. And then Pharaoh summoned Moses and said, go, worship Yahweh. Even your little ones may go with you and your flocks, but your herds and your flocks will stay behind. So it says that the Israelites had light in their dwelling. So imagine this darkness is so deep and so dark that it's palpable. Yet in the land of Goshen and in the houses of the Israelites, there's light. 25. But Moses replies, you must also provide us with sacrifices and burnt offerings to present to Yahweh Elohim. Even our livestock must go with us. Not a hoof will be left behind. For we will need some of them to worship Yahweh Elohim. And we will not know how we are to worship until we arrive. So he's like, dude, I don't even know what we're supposed to sacrifice till we get there. So I got to take everything with me. 27. But Yahweh's heart was hardened, and he was unwilling to let them go. Depart from me, Pharaoh said unto Moses. Make sure you never see my face again, for on the day you see my face, you will die. As you say, Moses replies, I will never see your face again. And then Yahweh said unto Moses, I will bring upon Pharaoh and Egypt one more plague. After that, he will allow you to leave this place. And when he lets you go, he will drive you out completely. Now announce to the people, the men and women alike should ask their neighbors for articles of silver and gold. And Yahweh gave the people in favor sight of the Egyptians. Moreover, Moses himself was highly regarded in Egypt by Pharaoh's officials and by the people. So he says, go out and tell the people to go start asking their neighbors for silver and gold. So they're collecting up stuff already. And the people already look at Moses as very, very high up. For so Moses declared, this is what Yahweh says. About midnight. Highlight this. This is a time frame. This is very important. About midnight, I will go throughout Mitzrayim, and every firstborn son in the land of Mitzrayim will die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sits on the throne to the firstborn of the servant girl behind the handmill, as well as the firstborn of all the cattle. So it's not even just a human being, it's a people thing, it's an animal thing as well. He says, then a great cry will go out over the land of Mitzrayim. Such an outcry has never been heard before and will never be heard again. But among the Israelites, not even a dog will snarl at man or beast. Right? So the land of Goshen is going to be quiet. The land of Mitzrayim is going to be terrible wailing. Then you will know that Yahweh makes a distinction between Egypt and Israel, And all these officials of yours will come and bow before me, saying, Go, you and your people follow you. After you, I will depart. And hot with anger, Moses left Pharaoh's presence. Yahweh said unto Moses, Pharaoh will not listen to you, so that my wonders may be multiplied in the land of Mitzrayim. Moses and Aaron did all these wonders before Pharaoh, but Yahweh hardened Pharaoh's heart, so that he would not let the Israelites go out of his land. So there you can highlight that. Now we're back to the father hardening the heart of Pharaoh. All right. This is the instructions for Passover. Another reference to this is Numbers 9, 1 through 14. You can see it on the screen. All right. Now, Yahweh said unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Mitzrayim, This month is the beginning of months to you. It shall be to you the first month of your year. How do we know this? Calculating the year and the month and the day based upon Enoch. This is how we do this. Remember, in the Apocalypse of Abraham, I believe it says that the book of Enoch was handed down to Noah, who handed it to Shem, who handed it down, who ended up in the hands of Abraham, who ended up in the hands of Isaac and Jacob handed the book of Enoch to Levi. And who is Levi? The father of the Levites. And who are the Levites? We read later, those who serve in the temple. But why do you think the Levites were the only tribe to not bow the knee to Egypt? They knew they had something different. This is how Moses and Aaron already knew what a month, what a day, what a year was, and how to calculate them. Because they, from a young age, Levites, would have been taught, would have had reference to the book of Enoch. 3. Tell the whole congregation of the children of Israel that on the 10th day of this month, each man must select a lamb for his family. So think about this. He tells Pharaoh, the firstborn's about to be taken. And after this, however long after this, finally, the first day of the month of the first of the year begins. And he's saying, hey, in 10 days, right? He said, this is the beginning of months. It will be the first month of the year to you. So this is day 1. He's saying, in 10 days, you go and get a lamb. Each one for his family, one per household. If the household is too small for the whole lamb, they are to share it with the nearest neighbor based on the number of people and apportion in the lamb accordingly. Your lamb must be unblemished, 1 year old. And you may, in the first year, a male, and you may take it from the sheep or the goats. So it can be a sheep or a goat, right? It could be a lamb or a ram. But it needs to be under a year, unblemished male. You must keep it until the 14th day of the month, when the whole assembly of the congregation, the children of Israel, will slaughter the animal at twilight. So, 10th day, you bring him in. The 14th day, at twilight, meaning at sunset. When the 14th day is ending, the sun is setting, the day is coming to a close. The 15th day of the month is beginning. That is the first day of unleavened bread. That is a Sabbath. When that is, right, at twilight, at the sun setting, is when you'll slaughter the lamb. Then you are to take some of the blood and put it on the sides and the tops of your door frames, on the houses where they eat the lamb. So on your lintel and doorposts. They are to eat the meat that night, roasted over the fire, along with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. Do not eat any of the meat raw or uncooked or in boiling water, but only roasts over the fire, its head and legs and inner parts. Do not leave any of it until the morning. Before the morning, you must burn any part that is left over. So, people say, what do I do for Passover? What do I do for Passover? On the 10th day, you get a lamb. On the 14th day, towards the end of the day, you slaughter the lamb. You cook the lamb over an open fire. You eat the lamb that night with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. You don't boil it. You don't cook it. You don't eat it raw. You don't break any bones on it. You don't snap any legs. You don't get a lamb chops. You don't cut it up. Whatever's not eaten goes into the fire, and the rest of it is burned up before the sun rises. That is how you keep Passover. The blood that you get from it, capture some of it in your bowl, paint it on your doorposts and your roof, your little lintel, right? That's Passover. Biblically speaking, that's Passover. Everything else you do is just something else you do. All the other traditions and all these things, a Seder plate that the Jews do is truly worshiping other gods. That's why they have an egg on it, to worship Ishtar. And they literally get a lamb chop. And to get a lamb chop, you got to cut some bone. It's impossible to get a lamb chop without cutting a bone. So they're literally cutting the bone of this animal. They're not supposed to be unblemished, right? They're not supposed to break any bones upon this, but they put a lamb chop on the table. There's a lot of things wrong with all that stuff. If you say, how do I keep Passover biblically? I get a lamb on the 10th day. As long as it's a male in the first year, it doesn't matter if it's a goat or a sheep. I slaughter that lamb towards evening. I take the blood of that lamb, I put it above my door and on the sides of my door. I roast that lamb over open fire. I eat that lamb with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. And when all's said and done and the portions have been handed out and everybody's eaten, whatever remnants are left goes onto that fire and it is burned up before the sun rises. That's a biblical Passover. That is exactly how Yeshua would have done it. That's how he did it. That's how Paul did it. That's how everybody in the Bible did it. And that's how we should do it as well. All right, 11. This is how you eat it. You must be fully dressed for travel with your sandals on your feet and your staff in your hand. You are to eat it in haste. This is Yahweh's Passover. So, we don't eat it in our jammies. We eat it in clothes with shoes on. Ready to go. On that night, I will pass through the land of Mitzrayim and strike down every firstborn male, both man and beasts. I will execute judgment against all the gods of Egypt. Highlight this, highlight this, highlight this, underline it. I will execute judgment against all the gods of Egypt. I am Yahweh. Remember, he is establishing his name. And to establish his name, he's not just saying, here I am. He's saying, yeah, sure, yeah. I am who I am. And you will know who I am when I bring my high and strong mighty arm over the land of Egypt. I am not just bringing you out, I am destroying them. And then I am bringing you out of the rubble. So that all will know, yeah, sure, yeah. I am who I am. 13. The blood on the houses where you are staying will be a sign, even when I see the blood. I will pass over you. No plague will fall upon you to destroy you when I strike the land of Mitzrayim. The blood of the covenant protects us, just like the blood of the lamb protected them. The blood of the lamb will once again protect us from judgment. The blood of Yeshua, the Messiah, will protect us from judgment and from ultimately the second death. 14. This is the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which pairs with Passover. And you can find this in Leviticus 23, Numbers 28, and Deuteronomy 16. And this day will be a memorial for you, and you will celebrate it as a feast to Yahweh, a permanent statute for the generations to come. Meaning this is something you will do, we will do, our children will do, our fathers did, and our great grandchildren will do. Your generations forever a permanent statute. For 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. On the first day you are to remove the leaven from your houses. Whoever eats anything leavened from this day to the 7th day must be cut off from Israel. On the first day you are to hold a sacred assembly, a Sabbath. And on the 7th day, you must not do any work on those days except to prepare meals. That is all you will do. So, Passover is not a Sabbath. Passover is a preparation day. At the evening of Passover, when Passover is coming to a close, you'll slaughter the lamb. You'll paint your doorpost. You'll roast the lamb with fire. You'll make sure you're dressed ready to go. You'll eat the lamb with unleavened bread because now we're in unleavened because the sun is set and it's the first day of unleavened bread. It has now become a Sabbath. This is now a Sabbath day, right? The first day of unleavened bread is a Sabbath. Then you will eat unleavened bread and bitter herbs with your lamb. As you're sitting here and everybody's eating, you'll take whatever remnants of this lamb and you'll put it on the fire and you'll burn it up before the sun rises. From that day, for the next 7 days, there'll be no leaven inside your home. There'll be no leaven inside your food. There'll be no leaven inside your body. On the first and the seventh day, you will not do any work. These are Sabbath days. You don't go to work. You don't labor outside. You don't do anything. The only thing you do is to prepare meals. All right, 17. So you are to keep the feast of unleavened bread, for this very day I brought your divisions out of the land of Mitzrayim. Remember, he said, at about midnight. That means on the 15th day of the month, which is the day of unleavened bread, when the moon is a full moon, meaning they had the most amount of light, he brought them out of Mitzrayim. Says, you must keep this day as a permanent statute for generations to come. There it is again. We are commanded that this is a day we will always keep and always set apart forever and ever. In the first month, you are to eat unleavened bread from the evening of the 14th day, meaning with your Passover meal, until the evening of the 21st day. Evening to evening is how you shall count your days, and evening to evening is how we determine one day to the next, and evening is how you keep all of your feasts. For 7 days there must be no leaven found in your homes. If anyone eats something leavened, that person, whether he is a foreigner or native to the land, must be cut off from the congregation of Israel. You are not to eat anything leavened. You are to eat unleavened bread in your home. Then Moses summons all the elders of Israel and told them, go at once and select yourselves a lamb for each family and slaughter the Passover lamb. Take a cluster of hyssop and dip it into the blood in the basin and brush the blood on the sides of the doorframe. None of you will go out from the door of your house until morning. So, what is the importance of this? In the death of Yeshua, okay? So, in the first Passover, there is blood, and that blood is painted on the door with hyssop, right? And if we look at hyssop, it's oregano. So, hyssop and blood is filling the air. When you rip the hyssop, when you rip it, that's when you really smell herbs. So they rip up all this hyssop and then they go paint their doors with it. So hyssop is smelling in the air, blood is smelling in the air. At the death and crucifixion of Yeshua, a man takes hyssop and sticks it into a bowl of soured wine and sticks it into the face of Yeshua. And moments after this, that same spear strikes in the side of Yeshua, and blood and water come out. So just as in the days of Passover, when hyssop and blood is smelled throughout the air, at the death of Yeshua, hyssop and blood once again is poured out into the air. Remember, it says, and the soldier stabs the side of Yeshua, and blood and water pour out and spray upon those standing by. 23. When Yahweh passes through to strike down the Egyptians, he will see the blood on top of the sides and the doorframe and will pass over that doorway. He will not allow the destroyer to enter your houses and strike you down. You are to keep this command as a permanent statute for you and your descendants. There it is a third time. We are 20 something verses in, and three times we've been told this is a permanent statute. Sounds pretty important to me. When you enter the land that Yahweh is to give you as he promised, you are to keep this service. Again, we are told to keep it. When your children ask, what does this service mean to you? You are to reply, it is the Passover sacrifices to Yahweh who passed over the houses of the Israelites in Mitzrayim when he struck down the Egyptians and spared our homes. Then the people bowed and worshipped, and the Israelites went and did just what Yahweh had commanded Moses and Aaron. Now at midnight, Yahweh struck down every firstborn male in the land of Mitzrayim, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sat on the throne to the firstborn of the prisoner in the dungeon, as well as the firstborn among the livestock. During the night, Pharaoh got up, he and all his officials and the Egyptians, and there was a loud wailing in Mitzrayim, for there was no house without someone dead. Then Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron by night. Remember, at midnight. This is nighttime at midnight. And said, get up, leave my people, both you and your Israelites. Go, worship Yahweh as you have requested. Take your flocks and your herds as well, just as you have said, and depart, and bless me also. And in order to send them out of the land quickly, the Egyptians urged the people, go, otherwise they said, we're all going to die. They didn't even let them wait till morning. They told them to leave immediately, and that was in the middle of the night. So the people took their dough before it was leavened, carrying it on their shoulders and kneading bowls wrapped in clothing. Furthermore, the Israelites acted on Moses' word and asked the Egyptians for articles of silver and gold and clothing. And Yahweh gave the people such favor in the sight of the Egyptians that they granted their requests. In this way, they plundered the Egyptians. The Israelites journeyed from Ramses to Sukkot. You can highlight that. With about 600,000 men on foot, besides women and children. Now, we talked about this a little while ago, okay? And 600,000 men. Does this mean all men? No, it means men of a age of numbering. Any men over the age of 20? And I think it's like under the age of 65 or 75. I can't remember those. So there could be men that are younger, and there could be older men. They're not counted in this number. If we sit there and say, oh, yeah, he pulled out 500,000 from... No. He pulled out 600,000 men who were eligibly denumbered, besides women and children. So now let's say there is, what? 50,000, 100,000 elderly. So now we're at 700,000 people. Now say half of those men, the 600,000, are married, which is probably lowballing. That means that there are 300,000 married women. Now think of all the women that are not married yet. Just in those two numbers alone, we're probably sitting close to over a million, 1.1, 1.2 million people. Now let's say the 300,000 couples, husbands and wives, have 2 children, which is lowballing because they had a lot more than 2. We can easily get numbers upwards of 2 million people without actually doing any real math, averaging, and lowballing everything. So Moses didn't leave with 600,000 men. Moses left with over 2 million people, easy, from the land of Egypt. And these people are not just Israelites or Hebrews, or as people like to say, Jews, which don't even exist yet. Well, they exist because they're from the tribe of Judah, but they're not mentioned until way later. But you'll go, oh, this is the Jews. No, it says in 38, and a mixed multitude also went up with them, along with great droves of livestock, both flocks and herds. Oh, so Over 2 million Israelites and a mixed multitude. How big is that? We don't know. Millions and millions of people leaving the land. Imagine how crazy that had to have been to see and be a part of. Since their dough had not leavened, the people baked what they had brought out of Egypt unto unleavened loaves. For when they had been driven out of Egypt, they could not delay and had not prepared any provisions for themselves. Now, the duration of the Israelites' stay in Egypt was 430 years. At the end of 430 years, at this very day, all of Yahweh's divisions went out of the land of Mitzrayim. Because Yahweh kept a vigil at night to bring them out of the land of Egypt. This same night is to be a vigil to Yahweh and to be observed by all of the Israelites for the generations to come. So again, we are commanded and told this is to be observed forever for all the generations to come this night. Right? It is a vigil. It is to pay homage. It is to praise. It is to respect Yahweh. All right. And Yahweh said to Moses and Aaron, this is the statute of the Passover. No foreigner is to eat of it, but any slave who has been purchased may eat of it after you have circumcised him. A temporary resident or hired hand will not eat of the Passover. It must be eaten inside one house. You are not to take any of the meat outside the house, and you may not break any of the bones. Now, you can take the meat in the yard to burn it. What it's meaning is it's not a neighborhood barbecue. You're not walking from house to house hanging out from I'm gonna go check out what these people are doing. This is a private, special bonding ceremony and feasts and sacred time that is reserved for you and the Father and the Son. And if you are able to do it with others, amazing, do it with others. If it's by yourself, amazing, do it by yourself. At the end of the day, all of this should be for ourselves. Whether we're in the physical with others, spiritually, this should be a connection for ourselves to the Most High and to the Son, the Messiah. 47. The whole congregation of Israel must celebrate it. Here we go again, commanding us to do it. If a foreigner resides with you and wants to celebrate Yahweh's Passover, all the males in the household must be circumcised. Then he may come near to celebrate it, and he will be like the native of the land, but no uncircumcised man may eat of it. So once they become circumcised, they become like a native, branched, grafted in. 49. The same law, the same Torah will apply to both the native and the foreigner who resides among you. So it doesn't matter if they're native born or foreigner, the rules are the rules. You should highlight that. So people go, oh, that's stuff for the Jews. Yeah, sure. The Talmud, the traditions and teachings of men, sure, that's for the Jews. That ain't for me. The commands of the Most High, the statutes, the ordinances of the Most High, that is for me. That is for you. That is for a guy 1,000 years ago. Bless you. That is for a guy in 500 years, or a girl, or a child. It doesn't matter. Those are for all. 50. Then all the Israelites did this. They did just as Yahweh commanded Moses and Aaron. And on that very day, Yahweh brought the Israelites out of the land of Egypt by their divisions. All right. And that is the end of the first Passover. So, why is this important to us, right? Because we can easily go into the Gospels, and we have, and we always do, and we talk about Yeshua is the Passover lamb, the Messiah is the Passover lamb, the Passover lamb. That's great, and you should know that, and you should study that, and know that in your heart he is. In order to understand the significance of him being the Passover lamb, we need to understand the Passover. We need to understand the significance of Yeshua the Messiah being the Passover lamb and what the Passover lamb is and what it does and how it atoned and how it protected and how it saved and how it was the sign, and the blood of the lamb was the sign of his people and the covenant his people had made and the promise to protect his people, so that when you say the blood of the lamb of the Messiah covers me, you know what that means. That if the destroyer, when the destroyer comes back through, when the anger of Yahweh, the great and terrible day of Yahweh, when the tribulation begins, the blood of the Lamb will protect you just as it did, protecting all of those people back in the day. It was a mixed multitude that came out of the land of Mitzrayim, meaning there were Egyptians that saw the plagues and decided to worship the Father and kept the Passover and were protected, and then were exodus along with the children of Israel. It says 600,000 men and a mixed multitude with them, meaning, what was Moses' wife? Ethiopian. Sephora, she was Ethiopian. There's people from the Arabians, Saudi Arabia. There's Egyptians. There's Assyrians, Persians, Hittites. All of these people from all these lands living in the land of Egypt, seeing these plagues and changing their ways. This goes back to, right, and it's on the screen. This is in, I think it's Exodus 4. He says, then 22 and 23, I believe. Then tell Pharaoh that this is what Yahweh says: Israel is my firstborn son, and I told you to let my son go so that he may worship me. But since you have refused to let him go, behold, I will kill your firstborn son. These are the words that Moses carried all through his life, right? Leading up until the moment that he said these things to the face of Pharaoh. Mind you, basically his brother. He hadn't seen him in a very long time, but he was raised with him, right? They were raised by the same mother. And looking at it, that's a heavy burden that Moses had to carry. But when we're living for the Father and not for ourselves, a lot of these things that are difficult and hard can become easy because we just have to trust and know and believe that He is with us and He is watching over us. And that if He said He will do something, then He will do it. And that's a hard thing to do because we are so used to trusting in humans, and humans are fallible and make mistakes and forget and don't come through and are flaky and fail. And the Father is none of that, right? He is none of that. And by reading this Passover, that should give you comfort, just like the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of truth that Yeshua promised us, comforts us because we can go back and read these things and go, wow, the blood of the Lamb covered these people so long ago, and now the true blood of the Lamb, Yeshua the Messiah, is covering me. That's when you should really, really put a lot of stock in when Yeshua says, no one can snatch you from my hand, John 10. No one can snatch you from my hand, let alone the hand of my Father. That should give you confidence. Knowing the Passover and knowing what the Lamb did for them so long ago, and how much more power the Son and authority the Son has now, knowing what He and His blood can do for you, should bring you comfort. And this is the importance of understanding the first Passover. And this is what you should teach your children about the first Passover. And when they understand the first Passover and they understand the significance, you say, now let me introduce you to the Messiah, our Passover lamb. So last little recap, and then we're done. What does a biblical Passover look like? On the 10th day of the first month, you get a lamb. On the 14th day of the first month, towards the evening, you slaughter the lamb. You take hyssop, aka oregano. You capture some of the blood from the lamb when you slaughter it. You dip the oregano hyssop into the blood. You paint your doorposts and your lintel. You roast the lamb over open fire. At this moment, all the leaven should have been removed from your entire home. Typically, about 2 weeks out, we gather all the leaven, we put it up on a shelf, and we start eating it and we get ready to throw it away. That's how we know we've removed our leaven from the home. This is also in reference to spring cleaning, and we think this is where spring cleaning came from. Every spring, you'd clean out your house and get all the leaven out, just like we do. And just like everything else that was good in the fathers has been altered and molested and changed into something it's not. But there is no more leaven in your home. You then bake fresh unleavened bread. You then take bitter herbs. Whether you put them in your unleavened bread, you put them on your lamb, you put them on your plate, it does not specify. It just says, at that evening, you will eat the lamb, bitter herbs, and unleavened bread. Once you have had your fill, you remain inside the home. You can go outside the home to burn the rest of the lamb up, but you're not carrying it from house to house to house. It's not a big block party. It's a private thing inside the home where you're worshiping and spending time with the Father and the Son. You take whatever remnants are of this lamb, you put them on the fire, and you burn them up till there's nothing left before the sun rises. That evening, the 15th day, to the next evening is a Sabbath. That is the first day of unleavened bread. From that day for the next 7 days, you will eat no leavened bread. That's anything with yeast or anything with a leavening agent in it, right? So anything that rises up. On the seventh day, which is the final day of unleavened bread, it is also a Sabbath. On the first and the seventh, you'll do no work unless you're preparing food. Whatever you got to do to prepare food, that's okay. It's a feast. But you're not going to go to your job. You're not going to go labor. You're not going to go pull weeds. You're not going to cut your grass. You're not going to detail and clean your house. You're not going to arrange for, you're not doing any of that stuff. This is a day reserved for worship, a day reserved for relationship. Imagine if you said, hey, do you want to come meet your potential wife? Oh, yeah, let me go meet her. What are we going to do? Well, actually, she's going to come over, and then I'm just going to clean my house. I'm going to mow my yard. I'm going to do my chores. I'm going to get this done. I'm going to go change the oil in my truck. I'm going to. So you're going to spend any time to get to know her? Well, nah. I mean, like, she'll be around. That's not the mindset we want. The mindset we want is we're setting aside time to be still, be quiet, and to be known. That's the day they're not working. That's the day they can know us. And that's important that we be known. The first day of unleavened bread, which is the 15th day of the month, says after that Sabbath, so the 16th day of the month, okay, which is the first day after unleavened bread, uh, that is when you start counting the Omer. That is when you start your count of 49 days to the 50th day, which is Shavuot or Pentecost. And when we get closer to that, we'll discuss that too at the end of unleavened bread. We'll discuss that. But I hope this was informative. I know it was a lot of reading, but I hope it was good, and I hope you guys learned something and took something away and didn't get too tired of just hearing me talk and talk and talk. So, is there any questions or statements or comments or anything?
Nice job, brother.
Oh, Steve's got something. Thank you.
The scriptures I was reading out of was talking about the fly, and it was calling it the stable fly. So I looked it up, and it said it bites animals, it bites people. Um, it's also it has maggots that are seen in rotting manure near cattle and poultry. That could have had something to the death of the livestock. It will inhabit masses of decaying aquatic vegetation that's on shore. It also said in there that it might be a vector for parasites and diseases, including agent of Sura, brucellosis, equine infectious anemia, African horse sickness, and also reported to be a vector of Bacillus anthracus, the causative agent of anthrax. Bad stuff.
So if you look at the plagues too, I don't remember who it was. There was a guy on something I saw. He talks about the plagues and how the plagues are set up like um ecologically. The plagues also make sense. The order in which the plagues come, right? So the Nile turns to blood, and the frogs come, they get piled up. When they all die, their piles are so high the stench is out. Then fleas come, and fleas are infested in the area, and they eat all the fruit, and they get on all the animals, and they start to agitate everybody in the animals. And then the flies come, and the flies can now live off of the stench and the dead bodies of all the frogs. Same with the fleas. They can start eating up the fruit. And then, like Steve was saying, those flies can carry maggots, and those can cause um, disease in all the stuff. The animals all die. And then from disease and infection in the air, Moses blowing the soot, here come the boils, and then the boils, right? And then we go into like heavenly things where it's hail, locusts storming through, and then the darkness, and then the firstborn, um, death. But there's one more home.
And when Elohim did the plagues, the Egyptian had gods that were supposed to like lead, like those a god that like owned the gnats and frogs and livestock.
And because of that, that is how he establishes himself. And he says, I will destroy and slaughter the gods of Egypt, because they're here praying, let us go pray to the God of the frogs so he will relieve us from this. Oh, no help. Let us go pray to the God of pestilence so that our animals won't, no help. Let's go pray to the God of the rains and the thunders and the hail so he will, oh, no help. Let us go pray to the gods of the wall. Oh, no help. So, like Ariah said, there was a bunch of Egyptian gods that were supposed to be able to help prevent these things, yet they were helpless against the Most High. And because of this, he establishes his name. Because he establishes his name, it is embedded in history forever. So, well, I'm glad you guys stayed on. I hope you guys learned something. I hope you guys have a wonderful Passover. Next week is an off week, and then we will pick up the week after that, just after the end of unleavened bread. So, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Have a wonderful week and a wonderful feasts. And yeah, we're praying for everybody.
Thank you, Zach.